At this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger. On my orders, coalition forces have begun striking selected targets of military importance to undermine Saddam Hussein's ability to wage war. These are opening stages of what will be a broad and concerted campaign. More than 35 countries are giving crucial support, from the use of naval and air bases, to help with intelligence and logistics, to the deployment of combat units. Every nation in this coalition has chosen to bear the duty and share the honor of serving in our common defense.
Those of us in the military that were working for the government at the time knew for a while, because the events leading up to March of 2003, when we actually invaded, we had a good deal of knowledge about it, and we knew it was coming. I had done two previous deployments to Iraq during the first Gulf War.
Okay.
During the actual invasion of Kuwait, and then I went up to northern Iraq to support the mission called Provide Comfort, where we supported the Kurdish refugees. I was fine with it. I personally believed, as a result of the events of 9/11, that the United States actually had to go invade a country where we could show the world we felt there was a threat and take some hits, even though you can say it wasn't a nation that was directly involved in the attacks of 9/11. It was certainly a hostile nation, and certainly a nation that had used chemical weapons, and I thought it was a necessary military action. We have gotten to a point in our military operations, and things are just very expensive. It cost about $1 million per troop to deploy them for a year in Iraq or Afghanistan. The Iraq and Afghanistan War, were particularly difficult because the lines of communication were so far, and our primary bases of operation in Europe and the United States, where we had to bring forces, was so far. So a lot of things had to be taken a great distance. That, and we, I believe, have way too many contractors and get way too big. And we now, in the old days, troops lived very Spartan. And now if you don't have access to Wi-Fi when you're in the field, troops are mad about it. So things have gotten expensive because we've gotten a little bit softer, I think. It's just my personal opinion. And I think we rather than do things, we'll sign them out to contractors to do logistical things, or things we don't want to do when running a big base, and they are very, very expensive. And then just where these wars were, the distances involved and the terrain and area to where we had to bring supplies were extremely difficult, and created a hugely costly thing. Miscommunications. Occasionally, the commanding general of CENTCOM would call from Tampa without a script, or typically we knew when they were calling, or if the president was calling, or if the National Security Council was calling. We typically had an idea, and were able to make sure. I worked for Prime Minister Alawi, who spoke very, very good English, educated in Great Britain. A very educated man, and spoke perfect English, as did most of his staff. And so other than maybe some delays because of the communication security that I was before, I don't really think that we had any miscommunications, other than, I will say, the Iraqis did not always understand the American sense of urgency when we were trying to bring about change, or what we as political change process. Americans typically want to see results in weeks, and these are societies that have lived centuries and eons the way they've lived, and they are not going to respond to our sense of urgency.
Watch and wait for Redemption Day. What do you have for us today? Throw us a bone, but save the plate. Oh, why we waited till so late? Was there no oil to excavate?
I greatly fear that the United States will be forced by events, whether it's to keep Israel from attacking Iran because they're fearful of a nuclear attack, or keeping Saudi Arabia or a coalition of Arab countries from acquiring perhaps nuclear technology or other weapons from other countries where we don't sell them or can't maybe have a little bit of influence. These countries may feel so threatened that they overarm through other sources, perhaps Russian or Chinese, where we won't have as much influence. So I think the long-term bad influence of Iran and our inability to influence it, because we didn't leave any force or any influence in Iraq, and if you see us, we've just simply walked away from our embassy in Yemen and left it. And Saudi Arabia is now striking flying missions and striking things in Yemen. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on the premises of going very, very bad in the Middle East, and we're not in a position to influence it, and I'm very, very concerned about our current state of foreign policy in that part of the world.
Have served with courage and resolve. As Commander-in-Chief, I am incredibly proud of their service. And like all Americans, I am awed by their sacrifice and by the sacrifices of their families. The Americans who have served in Iraq completed every mission they were given. They defeated a regime that had terrorized its people. Together with Iraqis and coalition partners who made huge sacrifices of their own, our troops fought block by block to help Iraq seize the chance for a better future. They shifted tactics to protect the Iraqi people, trained Iraqi security forces, and took out terrorist leaders. Because of our troops and civilians, and because of the resilience of the Iraqi people, Iraq has the opportunity to embrace a new destiny, even though many challenges remain. So tonight, I am announcing that the American combat mission in Iraq has ended.